In this video, we're going to go ahead and lay out the right side guardrail on the roadway, and we're also going to start on the end bend. But before we do that, we're going to look at the manual on the bottom of page number 5, and there's a note that we didn't address in the previous video, and it talks about the guardrail kind of meandering in and out. And so if I just to show you that in the window over here in the 3D model view here, if we rotate the window and kind of look down the roadway, you can see that the guardrail is kind of meandering in and out, and it's mainly because the template is following this existing, it looks like edge of pavement line, and so that's why it meanders in and out. But what you can do is tell the template not to follow what's happening here. Let's go to the template library real quick and we'll show you what's going on. So I'm going to hit F4 and I'm going to go select the template line, and we're going to go ahead and edit that template real quick. You can do this if you want to, or you can just leave it as is. But what's happening is the guardrail, which is right about here, is tied to this edge of shoulder line, and the edge of shoulder line is following this point here, and then this point here is also following this point. Now this point here is seeking out that existing edge of pavement line, and wherever it goes in and out, it's forcing these points to go in and out as well. And so what you can do is we can just take this point here and define it to the center line point with that offset listed in the manual on it down here at the bottom. We can set that to 16 feet. So let's go ahead and do that real quick, or at least I'm going to do that on my model. So I'm going to go into there, and instead of having a horizontal constraint to the point right here, I'm going to go all the way down to this location here. And so I'm going to change my parent point, and I'm going to change that offset to be 16. And I'm going to hit apply, so it's going to bump it out a little bit. I'm going to hit close, and I'm going to hit OK. And now when that recalculates the template, you'll see that it does not meander in and out as much anymore, because again, this shoulder line is now based off the straight center line instead of that meandering in and out edge of pavement, existing edge of pavement line here. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to go out and start laying out the guardrail on the right side. And so I'm going to go ahead and get my view back to a kind of a isometric view, so I can kind of see as that guardrail starts popping in there. So our next piece will be right here, and if you want to, you can just rotate it around and get it however you like. I think that'll be pretty good right there. And so we're going to come back over to this side here, and we're going to go to the top of page number 6, and we're going to continue on placing the guardrail line. We have to change our feature definition from guardrail type A left to right. We want to make sure that this is turned on so it applies the feature definition, and also these two items here where it kind of creates a 3D profile and uses a template to place that guardrail. We're going to have Civil AccuDraw still running, and the very first part we're going to do a single offset partial right. So we're going to go back to our horizontal geometry tools. We're going to slide down to the offset tools here. We're going to do the single offset partial. When that pops up, we have the dialog here, and the settings can be unclicked. We're going to leave the offset set to 0 because it's going to put it right along the edge shoulder line there. And so now it's asking for us to select the element, which is going to be the shoulder line. And on the right side, you got to kind of zoom in a little close so you don't accidentally select a different line, but we're going to select this line right here. And again, we're going to use Civil AccuDraw, and right now Civil AccuDraw is working fine. If it wasn't, what you can do is go to the offset field, type the letter O, and then go select this center line, because we want the stationing values to come off the center line and not the shoulder line. But you can see that our stationing is working correctly, so I'm going to go to the station field, And I'm going to type in that first station of 69 plus 30. I'm going to hit the Enter key or Tab. It'll lock it in. For the offset, we don't want to go from the offset from the center line. We want to go the offset from the shoulder. And so that's set to 0. It's already locked in. So I'm just going to move my cursor. You can see it gets locked into that location. Everything looks good. I'm going to start that guardrail line there. And then we're going to come down and we're going to end this at station 71 plus 98.75. So I'm going to go ahead and put my focus into the station field there. I'm going to type in 71 plus 98.75. Again, I'm going to tab that in. It locks it. Move my cursor around. You can see that it jumps to the right location. And then we're just going to left click to accept that. And if you look in your 3D view, you can see that the guardrail is popping in there. So I'm going to slide on down because the last little piece of guardrail, we're going to go from that 0 offset. We're going to bring it out just a little bit, half a foot, and it's going to tie right into that guardrail or into that, that barrier there. And so we're done with the single offset partial. We're going to go to the variable offset taper next. So we're going to go back to the tools. We're going to left click and hold. We're going to go to the variable offset taper. Again, with this, we're still using Civil AccuDraw to place it. And I didn't get that to work. There we go. There's the variable offset taper. And it's asking for us to locate the element again, which is the shoulder line. We're going to left click on that. The very first start offset is going to be 0, which it's already locked in. So I'm going to tab down and go to the station field. And the station that we want is that ending station that we just typed in of 71 plus 98.75. We're going to tab that in. We're going to move our cursor around. You can see it jumps to the end of that guardrail, which is what we want. We're going to left click to accept it. And now we're going to type in the end offset, which is 0.5, which it already is entered. Remembered it must have remembered it from the last time we used it. And positive 0.5 is what we want. The station value is going to be 72 plus 11. 72 plus 11.02. We're going to tab that in. We're going to move our cursor around a little bit. And we're going to left click to accept it. You can see we get the goofy looking guardrail here. When it does that, all you have to do, and we're going to say no to mirroring before we hit the F4 key. So we're going to say no to that mirroring, and then it places that guardrail correctly. If that would have remained out there, that goofy looking guardrail, you just had to hit F4 and it would draw on that guardrail correctly. Okay. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to start working on our end bent. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of zoom in to that location. And in step number 24, it says create or / apply a linear template drop for end bent number 1. So to get the our end bent is basically along this element that we created several steps ago. And I'm going to hit F4 and I'm going to select that element. And if you go to the heads up tools, you'll get the option to create a linear template. Now, a linear template is very similar to a corridor, but it just has a few less options than a corridor does. So we're going to go ahead and select that. And when you do that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn off my Civil AccuDraw just for a second. When you do that, you get the following dialog up here, and we're going to lock to the start. So we're going to turn that on. We're going to lock to the end because we want to create this linear template for the entire thing. And then we're going to leave this exterior corner sweep angle to 5 degrees. And what that'll do is when the linear template comes across the corner, it'll start dropping 5-degree lines off that corner to help it model. So it'll kind of do a pattern line every 5 degrees off of that corner. And so we got 2 corners, and it'll do that for both those corners. We don't want to mirror this. We don't want to reflect it. And the template that we want is going to be our bridge template. It's the 2-to-1 earth slopes with upper concrete structure. So we're going to go out, and first, before we can do this, I've got to set my correct template library. And so if I would click on this right here, it's going to go out to my MoDOT one, which is I do not want. So I'm going to cancel that, and I'm actually going to cancel this tool, and I'm going to go back to my my corridor modeling, and I'm going to select the template library to set that correct template library. Now, you might have it pointing to your correct template library already, but since I shut down before I ran this video, it defaults back to the MoDOT template library. So I'm going to go ahead and set it to the correct. I'm going to do a file open to open up my template library that's in my data folder. I've got to go down to District CAD, Design, CAD Instructor. I'm going to go down to Pike County, the job number, and then data. And there's my ITL. Again, you might have this already set, so you don't have to do what we're doing here. And I'm just going to close that down. And now I'm going to run the tool. So I'm going to come and select that bent line again. I'm going to go to my linear template. Everything is still set from before. Now when I select the the dots over here, it will go, instead of going to the MoDOT template, it's going to go to my local template in my library. So I'm going to expand that out. I'm going to go to the job number where I have this template stored. And this template's under the bridge template, and it's called 2-to-1 earth slopes with upper concrete structure. So this is the upper concrete structure here, and this is the 2-to-1 slopes that we're going to apply. So we're going to hit OK to that. And then it says for the design stage, we're going to set that to design instead of final. And actually, that's kind of a typo in the manual. The design stage, we're going to just set it to, let's just do final 1. And the description you don't have to worry about, but if you wanted to, you could put in a description. For example, like we could put in end bent number 1. Once that's all set, you can go ahead and just accept through all the prompts. And when it's done doing that, you'll see you have a concrete structure out there. Okay. And it's going kind of under the roadway. Eventually we're going to take care of that. We're going to clip out the roadway based on this template, but we're not there just yet. So now we're going to go ahead and start adjusting some parametric constraints with this template, because you can kind of see the bent seat is going along the outside here. We don't really want that to happen. We want it to happen under the roadway, but not, or under the bridge area, but not out here. So we're going to use some parametric constraints to kind of clean that stuff up. You can also see the 5-degree angle around that corner that we set in the linear template, and that's basically what that does. It just drops 5-degree angles all the way around that corner. So I'm going to hit F4, and we're going to go into actually step number 25. It wants us to actually clip out the corridor from the mainline corridor. And so that's real simple to do. All you got to do is select the mainline corridor. I got it right here. And you can go over to here, and this is where we added our corridor reference, but if you go down a little bit further, you can add in a clipping reference. And so I'm going to click on that, and now we can go out and we can select our linear template, and all we got to do is reset to complete, and you should see the roadway get clipped out. Now we do have a little bit extra still here. You can see it's kind of hanging here. We're going to take care of that here in a little bit. So if I go back to my model just to show you this a little bit clearer, I'm going to come over and I'm going to rotate that around. You can see that this template here was not broad enough or big enough to clip out this little piece here, but later on we'll show you how to get rid of that piece that's hanging out there. Again, this the piece of roadway that was not clipped out by the indent number 1. So now we're going to go into the indent number 1 linear template, and the linear template does have parametric constraints, and that's how we're going to kind of control what you see here. So I'm going to kind of zoom in this area right here and move it up a little bit. So when we start adjusting these parametric constraints, you can see stuff start modifying. So now we're going to do the parametric constraints, and this is on step number 26. And so we're going to go into the linear template, just like we did with the corridor. It's going to have some heads up prompts. It does have some corridor creation tools, even though it's a linear template. And it does have the create parametric constraints. And so we're going to go ahead and utilize that. And so it says on the very first one, we're going to adjust the bench width. And so we're going to lock at the start, which is at station 00. We're going to go stop it at station 25. I'm going to type in 0 plus 25. I'm going to tab that in. The start value, we actually got to give it the constraint label, which is bench width. And the default bench width is 3 foot wide, and we're going to set this both to 0. Once it's all defined, all you got to do is left click out there. In your 3D view, you should see your bench go away there. So let's go ahead and place the next parametric constraint. Again, I'm going to select the linear template. I'm going to go over to the corridor creation tools, and I'm going to select create parametric constraint. Now, I unchecked both the start and stop location, so now when I move around the indent, you can see that it knows where it is based on the station value, and it's asking for the start location. So we're going to do this second bench width. We want to make it 0 along the wing wall over here. So right before I get to the corner, or just right after the corner, it says it's 6191. So I'm going to make that be 61 plus 90, or 0.90, 61.90, and that'll bring me right before the corner. So I'm going to accept that. The stop is going to be at the end, so I'm just going to pull my cursor all the way past the end. Bench width is the constraint label again, and again I want the start value to be 0 and the end value to be 0. And so we're going to accept that, and we should see that the indent goes to 0, but we accidentally left 3 in the start value. So to fix that, it's fairly simple. All you got to do is go to your linear template, go to the corridor creation tools. If you go to the bucket, corridor objects, you'll notice that we do have parametric constraints in there. If we go to the one that I just set, which is the 6190 to the end, we highlight that. We come over here, you can see there's the 3 value that we forgot to change. We just got to go in there and hit 0 to that and hit enter, and you should see that that disappears, makes that disappear right there. So no worries if you accidentally do not set a correct value. You can always go into the corridor creation tools to set that correctly. So we're going to continue on to page 7 with this video, and we're going to set the next 3 parametric constraints. The next one deals with wall depth, and again I'm going to kind of rotate back over to into this view to the other side, or to the other wing wall. And so I'm going to rotate it around. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to move up a little bit. Bring my focus over here. And what we're going to try to do is make this wall height through here. We want it to go up to 0 at the end of this bridge indent here, or wing wall. So we're going to go back into the parametric constraints again of the linear template. We're going to select parametric constraint, We're going to leave everything unlocked, and I'm just going to go past the beginning point of the of my end bent alignment and make sure it's set to a start value of 0 plus 0, 0. We're going to left click. We're going to come down to that corner, which again is 0 plus 25. We're going to adjust not the bench width this time, but actually we're going to adjust the wall depth. So we're going to set the wall depth. You can see the start and stop value, or the default values for the wall depth, are 4. And so I'm going to accept the wall depth parametric constraint. The start value, I want it to be 0 for the wall depth. Tab that in or lock it in and accept it. And the stop value is going to be -4. So we're going to accept that. And when that happens, you can see that the ground line pops up and goes something like that. So we need to do the same thing for the other side. Again, I always tend to rotate my view so I make sure it happens and I don't make a mistake like I did last time where I left one of the values to the default values. So I'm going to slide it over here. I'm going to rotate my view. Perfect. And I'm going to hit F4 and then select the parametric constraint tool by selecting the linear template option. So we're going to start at this corner again, which is 61 plus 90. So I'm going to type in 0 plus 61.90. I'm going to enter that and lock it, and then I'm going to accept it with a left click, and then I'm going to go past the end point of my end bent alignment, and then I'm going to left click that. Again, we're doing wall depth. Our start value is going to be this time a -4, and then the end value is going to be 0. And I'm going to left click to accept that. You should see exactly what I get on mine once you do that. Okay, the next one that we're going to work on is fill slope. You can see that we got a problem with our fill slope. It doesn't match our roadway slope, and that happens on both sides. So again, I'm going to do the right side of the roadway first, and then I'll come over to this side of the roadway on the left side, but we're going to do the right side first. So we're going to kind of zoom in right about there. Again, we're going to come over, select our linear template, bring up its options, go to the corridor creation tools. We're going to go down to parametric constraints. Again, I'm going to start this at the very beginning, so it's kind of locked in on the value there. So I'm going to hit the END key, the N key on your keyboard. I'm going to bring it back past the beginning, 0 plus 0, 0. I'm going to bring it down to that corner of 25 plus 0, 0. I'm going to left click. This time, instead of doing wall depth, we're going to do fill slope. So we're going to go to fill slope. We're going to accept that. The start value, we're going to start at a value of -25% slope. We're going to accept that with a left click. We're going to do a stop value of -50%, a little bit steeper, at the 25 station value. So when you do that, you can see that the slopes get a lot better. I'm going to get this view active. I'm going to rotate the view around just so you can see what the slopes are doing on this side. So you can see it transitions from that 50% out to 25%. We have a little bit of a gap here, which is very simple to fix with a key station, so we're not too worried about that right now. So, okay. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing on the left side of the roadway. We're going to kind of zoom in here. I'm going to hit F4, and again we're going to go to our linear template. We're going to go to the corridor creation tools, slide down to parametric constraints, and we're going to start at that corner there of 61 plus 90. So on this one we have to type it in, so We're going to type in 0 plus 61.90 because we want it right before the curve, or right before that corner. So we're going to left click that. We're going to go to the very end of our alignment by just using our mouse and go just kind of drag it past the end of the alignment. And then we're going to adjust the fill slopes again. We're going to start at a 50% slope, and then we're going to go to a negative 25% slope at the end. So just go ahead and do that. You should see your slope kick out. You see it kind of does a lot better job on this side with no gap, and it looks pretty good. So with that, we're ending this video. We're at the bottom of page number 7, and in the next video we're going to be kind of modeling this end bend a little bit more. We're going to try to clip out this little hanging piece here, and that should end our exercise once we get that all done. So